Hilchos Kiddush Hachodesh Perek Shvi'i, the laws of sanctifying the new month, chapter 7. Yesterday, we began a discussion of the topic which is called Ibur. Ibur literally means intercalation or creating leap years, but it's also a general term that's used to describe the basic functions that went into determining the Jewish calendar. Making Rosh Chodesh, the Bet Din was commanded to go through certain mathematical calculations to ascertain whether the moon was going to be sighted on the night which could potentially become Rosh Chodesh. And besides for the intricate calculations which went into this, which we're going to discuss in the second half of these chapters, chapter 11 through chapter 19, in these chapters that we're learning these days, the Rambam gives us some of the more basic elements of the calendar. For example, yesterday we talked about the molad at length, the concept of conjunction, the fact that once a month the moon comes into alignment with the sun, and once you know how long it takes for an entire lunar cycle to occur, in other words, for the time that the moon and the sun are in alignment to the next time the moon and the sun are going to be in alignment, based on that you can figure out when the molad will be in any future month, and technically you could use that to ascertain when Rosh Chodesh is going to be in any given month. Today, the Rambam will go into another element, basic element of the Jewish calendar, and the entirety of today's chapter is dedicated specifically to Rosh Hashana. And the idea that we're going to be discussing is that while typically Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the new month, should ideally match the day of the actual molad, it should be the day or the day after that the moon and the sun come into alignment, for specific reasons, when it comes to Rosh Hashana, the start of a new Jewish year, we have to examine the exact time that the molad is going to be. When will conjunction be for the month of Tishrei? And depending on certain factors, sometimes indeed we will make Rosh Hashana on that day of the molad or the next day, but other times we're going to delay it. And as the Talmudists and the halachists, the codifiers of Jewish law, have come to call the topic of this chapter, it's known as the Arba Dechiyot, the 4 reasons why we can possibly delay Rosh Hashana. There are 4 ways, 4 options that if the molad of Tishrei, the conjunction of the new month of Tishrei, will be at a certain time period, we're going to delay Rosh Hashanah from being set on that day, and instead we're going to set it on the following day. And the Rambam begins, Halacha Aleph, Ein koivin lo'ilam resh chodesh Tishrei lefi cheshbon zeh. According to this calculation, in other words, the fixed calculation that determines the calendar the way we have it today, we never establish the new month of Tishrei, which we know today as Rosh Hashanah, lo'i be'echad b'Shabbos, v'lo'i be'revi'i b'Shabbos, v'lo'i be'erev Shabbos. The first rule is, and it's actually quite famous, it's called Loi Adu Rosh. Rosh Hashanah never begins on Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. Aleph is like Sunday, the first day of the week. Daled is Wednesday, and Vav is Friday. So the Rambam says we never established a new month, not on Sunday, not on Wednesday, not on Friday. The Siman Lahem Adu. The mnemonic for them, the way to remember it is Aleph, Daled, Vav. Ella, rather, what do? If the molad, if the time of conjunction for the month of Tishrei indeed falls out on one of these days, anytime on Sunday, in other words, from Saturday night till Sunday evening, anytime on Wednesday, in other words, from Tuesday night till Wednesday evening, anytime on Friday, i.e. from Thursday night to Friday evening, we will say, as those who have the authority to fix the calendar, that Rosh Hashanah, the new month of Tishrei, will only begin on the next day, on the Monday, or the Thursday, or the Shabbat. Ketzad, what does this look like practically? If we become aware that the molad, the conjunction is happening on Sunday, we establish the new month of Tishrei to be on Monday. If the conjunction happened on Wednesday, we establish the new month on Thursday. And if the molad happened on Friday, we make Rosh Chodesh on Shabbat. Now, of course, if the molad actually was on Monday or Thursday or Shabbat, Rosh Hashanah will be on Monday, Thursday, or Shabbat. That's indeed why those 3 days have the higher percentage of Rosh Hashanah falling on those days than, for example, let's say Tuesday. Rambam didn't mention Tuesday. If the molad is on Tuesday, Rosh Hashanah is on Tuesday. But that's the most rare occasion, because all the other months have 2 times that they can fall, that Rosh Hashanah can be on Monday. If the molad is either on Sunday or on Monday, Rosh Hashanah will be on Monday. If it's on Wednesday or on Thursday, Rosh Hashanah will be on Thursday. If it's on Friday or on Shabbat, Rosh Hashanah will be on Shabbat. And therefore, Tuesday is the rarest form of Rosh Hashanah. At any rate, this is the first of the 4 dechiyot, the first of the 4 delays. If we find the molad to be any time Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday, Rosh Hashanah is pushed to the next day. Base, the second dechiyah, the second delay. This one is called the molad zaken, the aged or the older molad. Bechein says the Rambam so too. On any day of the week, if conjunction comes out to be at noon, halfway through the day, or any time past that till the evening, we will fix Rosh Chodesh on the following day. And the principle here, as the commentaries explain it, is quite simple. Even in the times when the court used to function and establish Rosh Chodesh based on the testimony of witnesses, there had to be enough time after conjunction for one to be able to see the moon the following night after sunset while the moon was still in the sky, as we explained a couple of times in the previous chapters. If conjunction only happens at noon, there is no way for the following night to have a sighting of the moon. The hours are too small, there's too little time. The moon won't be able to get far enough from the sun to be sighted after sunset. And so automatically, even in the times of the temple, Rosh Chodesh is going to be the next day. So today, when we follow the calendars, if we ascertain that the molad is going to happen anytime after noon, we just go and make Rosh Chodesh the following day. Ketzad, what does this look like? Says the Rambam, if we ascertain that the molad of Rosh Hashana, again of the month of Tishrei, even though the Rambam doesn't say that, but it's talking about Rosh Hashana, as the commentaries explain. If the molad was on Monday, any time from 6 hours in the day and onwards, we fix Rosh Chodesh on Tuesday. But if the molad was before half day, even one portion, remember yesterday, the hour in halachic concept is not divided into 60 minutes. The entire hour is divided into 1,080 units of time. Each unit is called a chelek. So even if it's just one chelek before noon, 11:59 and 57 seconds, we will establish Rosh Chodesh on the day of the molad. In case that it was Monday, 11:59 a.m., Rosh Hashana will be Monday. For who? But again, that's provided that the day that we're talking about isn't one of the days of the first delay, Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. In other words, that's what Rambam writes it in this order. Because the first thing you have to find out is it Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. If it's one of those 3 days, it's anyways getting pushed off. Now, even if it's on the other days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Shabbat, if it's after half day, if it's after midday, we're going to the next day of Rosh Hashana. Now, what happens if you bump into Adu? In other words, let's say the molad is on Thursday, halfway through the day. So now you're pushing it off to Friday, but you can't make Rosh Hashana on Friday. The Rambam will soon explain that in that case, you actually push it off to Shabbat. You just push to the next possible day. Gimel. Here we go. If the molad is halfway through the day or after the half day, and it'll be pushed to the next day, if that day, here it is, if that day is one of the days of Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, it will be pushed off to the day afterwards. In this case, the new month will be fixed on the third day after the conjunction happened. Ketzah, what does that look like? Let's say the molad conjunction was ascertained to be on Shabbat midday, at noon. Simon, the sign for them is Zayin Yud Ches. Zayin is the seventh day of the week. Yud Ches, 18 hours into the day. Again, according to the Torah, the day begins at 6 p.m. by night. So you have 12 hours of night, 6 hours of day is 18 hours into the day. In this case, the new month will be fixed on Monday. Because Sunday, it's from Shabbos, it's halfway through the day, so it should be pushed to Sunday. But Sunday is forbidden. It's one of the days of Adu. So we bring it to Monday. Similarly, if the molad was on Tuesday at midday or after midday, in this case we would move Rosh Hashana, the new month, to Thursday. Because to Wednesday is impossible. It's one of those 3 forbidden days. So we go to Thursday. Dalit. Now we're going to learn the third delay. And this seems quite random, but I'm going to explain in a moment why it's super important. And as you can see on the screen, it's called Get Raid. Get Raid means Gimel, Tuesday, Tes, 9 hours into Tuesday, Raid, 204 chalakim. Again, every hour is 1,080 chalakim. So if the molad is on Tuesday, 9 hours into Tuesday, which is Monday night essentially, 204 chalakim into the 10th hour, which if you do the math, it's about 3:11 a.m. on Tuesday night. If the molad comes out to be any time after 3:11 a.m. on Tuesday, we push it to the next day. which actually means to Thursday, because you can't make Rosh Hashanah on Wednesday. As the Rambam says, Molad Tishrei sheyatza b'cheshbon zeh, if the molad, the conjunction for the new month of Tishrei, comes out according to this calculation, Bilil Shlishi, on the night of Tuesday, Monday night, V'teisha shayis balayla, umasayim v'arba chalakim misha asiris, 9 hours into the night, 204 chalakim of the 10th hour, Simana, get reid. The sign for this is Gimel, Tes, Tuesday, 9 hours, Reish Dalet, 204 parts, or Yoiser al zeh, or afterwards. Im haisa shana pshuta, if the year to come was a regular year, not a leap year, doichines reish Hachodesh, we push off the establishment of Rosh Hashana, ve'ein koivim oisei b'shlishi b'shana zu, and that year we're not going to fix Rosh Hashana to be on Tuesday, ela b'chamishi b'Shabbos, only on Thursday. What is the significance of this? So, we learned yesterday, by the way, the following explanation is taken from the Tur, who was the first halachic codifier of practical Jewish law. We said we're going to say tomorrow that the maximum length of a lunar year, a regular lunar year, is 355 days. Standard is 354, but maximum is 355. Yesterday we said, you remember all the cumulative molads, the Rambam said that the remainder, the Shacharis, from year to year, lunar year to lunar year, is 4 days, 8 hours, 876 parts. In other words, if you have the molad for a given year, and you want to know when is going to be the molad of the same month next year, just add 4 days, 8 hours, 876 parts, and you have the molad. Which essentially means that between one molad and the next of a regular year, there has to be that 4 day, 8 hour differential at least. So now, take the molad of 3-9-204. It's Tuesday, 9 hours into the day, 204 parts. Add to that 4 days, 8 hours, 876. What do you get? You get Shabbat at noon, 12 o'clock p.m. on Shabbat. Which means if we're going to allow Rosh Hashana to fall out on Tuesday this year, next year, the molad's going to be on Shabbat noon. Whenever the molad is on Shabbat at noon, we just learned that an aged molad is pushed off to the next day, which in this case would be Sunday. We can't make Rosh Hashana on Sunday, so we're going to make it on Monday. And what you're going to have is much more than 4 days between one Rosh Hashana and the next. That can happen. So to avoid that, we say whenever we see 3-9-204, we're going to make Rosh Hashana pushed off, in which case it's going to be pushed to Thursday, because Wednesday can't be Rosh Hashana, so it's going to be Thursday. And now when the next year's molad falls out on Shabbat at noon and gets pushed off to Monday, from Thursday to Monday, we're still going to have the 4 days, which is okay. And the lunar year will stay in the range of 355 days. Hey, a similar concept, just this one is for the year following a leap year. This is called Batu Takpat. Again, Beis, Monday, Tesvav, 15 hours into the day. Tov Kuf Pei Tes, 589 parts, which again converts to roughly 9:32 a.m. on a Monday morning. Says the Rambam, Mechenim Yatsa Molad Tishrei B'Yom Sheni. If the molad of the new month of Tishrei comes out to be on Monday, B'Sholei Shayis B'Yom, 3 hours into the day, which is 15 hours because it's 12 hours of night, 3 hours of day. V'chamesh meyes v'tisha u'shmeinim chalakim mishar revius, and 589 parts of the 4th hour, Simana Batu Takpat, which is the sign for this is Beis, Tesvav, Monday, 15 hours, Tov Kuf Pei Tes, 589, or Yesar al Kain, or later. Im haisa oisa hashana moitzoi hameuberes. If that year is the year following a leap year, shahaisa hashana hasmuchala sha'avra meuberes. In other words, the year just before it was a leap year. Ein koivin shachadesh b'sheni b'shana zu ela b'shlishi. During this year, we will not fix Rosh Hashana to be on Monday. We're going to push it off to Tuesday. And a similar principle here applies, just backwards. The minimum length of a leap year, we're going to learn tomorrow, is 383 days. The remainder of a leap year, as we learned yesterday, in other words, if you want to know the molad from a leap year, let's say you know the molad of Tishrei of one leap year, to the next Tishrei following that leap year, as the Rambam said yesterday, it's 5 days, 21 hours, and 589 units. So if you know that a certain molad of the year following a leap year is on Monday, 15 hours into the day, this whole thing, and you go backwards to see when was the molad of Tishrei in the leap year, you back up those 5 days, 21 hours, 589 units, you're going to end up with Tuesday noon. Tuesday noon means Rosh Hashana of the beginning of the leap year was set on Thursday. Because whenever you have a molad afternoon, it's an aged molad, and you go to the next day, which is Wednesday, doesn't work, Thursday. If this Rosh Hashana you're going to go and make on Monday, From Thursday to Monday, there's only 4 days difference in between, and if you count the full length of the year, it's going to come out to be only 382 days. So by delaying the Rosh Hashanah one more day to Tuesday, now you're going to have the proper 383 days. Vav, Hoya Molad Hashana Apshuta. The Rambam now addresses the last 2 delays. If the molad for the regular year, Sha'amarnu Shetidach Chamishi, which we said should be pushed to Thursday, was Paches Chelek Echa, just one iota, one portion less, Kegain Shayatza Simana get Reg, or Paches Mizeh. On Tuesday it was 9 hours into the day, and 203 parts, not 204. We can make Rosh Hashanah with no problem on Tuesday. Why? Because then the next molad is only going to be on Shabbat, 1 second before noon, in which case we're going to make Rosh Hashanah on Shabbat. So there's no problem to make the last one on Tuesday. Same thing if in the year following the leap year. If it was just 1 unit of time behind, 9:32 a.m. minus 1 chelek, Monday, 15 hours into the day, 588 units, or less, you can make it on Monday. Why? Because if it's 1 unit of time less, that means the last Rosh Hashanah was 1 moment before noon on Tuesday, which means it was set on Tuesday. And if it was set on Tuesday, to make the next one on the next Monday is not an issue. So it turns out, taking all this into account, here is how you determine when Rosh Hashanah should fall out according to our calculations. First you figure out when is the molad going to be. Which day of the week, how many hours into the day or the night, how many units of time into the next hour. By default, the day of the molad is the day you establish Rosh Chodesh. Elohim Kain, unless you have the first delay. It was Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. Where it was noon or afternoon. Or it was 204 units of time into the 10th hour of Monday night, or past that. If it was a regular year. Or the molad was 589 units into the 4th hour of Monday. And it was the regular year following the leap year. As we said before, if any of these 4 occasions happens, we don't set the day of Rosh Chodesh and the day of the conjunction, rather on the next day or the day following that, as we've explained in this chapter. Now, all the last 3 delays, I've given you the reason underlying the push-off. But what about the first delay? What's the problem with Sunday, Wednesday, Friday making Rosh Hashanah? Why do we not set Rosh Hashanah to be on Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday? So we're commonly aware of the reasons brought in the Talmud. If Rosh Hashanah is going to be on Sunday, then the Talmud says the Hoshana Rabbah, the last day of Sukkot, will end up being on Shabbat. And it's going to disturb the special mitzvah to bring the willow, as we learned in the laws of the Lulav, which cannot happen. And if Rosh Hashanah is on Wednesday or Friday, Yom Kippur will be on Friday or Sunday. In which case we're going to have 2 days, one after another, where it will be impossible to bury the dead. If somebody dies, chas v'shalom, on those days, we cannot bury on Shabbat, we cannot bury on Yom Kippur. That's not honorable for the dead people. So we made our calendar work around it such that Rosh Hashanah will never fall out on Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. That's the simple reasons. The Rambam brings another reason. Says the Rambam, because this calculation, is only taking into account the conjunction of the moon and the sun on their average walk. Not in their true path, as we've explained. I mentioned this yesterday in short, and we're going to explore this much more at length in later chapters. But the idea that the sun and the moon revolve around the earth typically takes into account the fact that the earth is in the exact center of the sun's and the moon's orbit. But the truth is that the orbit of the sun and the moon is off-center to the earth. You can see there in an exaggerated example, the orange dot is the center of the sun's orbit relative to itself. Which means that if you're standing on Earth and trying to ascertain the movement of the sun against the stars, that's the only way we can identify the movement of the sun against those constellations. So if you're looking from Earth, you're going to label the sun as being at a specific degree on the ecliptic, on the round of the constellations. But if you're looking from the center of the sun's orbit and you draw a line into the ecliptic, into the mazalot, it's going to end up at a different degree. One is called the emtsa'i, taking the center of the sun's orbit into account is called the average walk, and the perspective of the person on Earth is called the makom ha'amiti, the true point, the true position of the sun. So when we say the sun and the moon come into alignment, Rambam says all this molad stuff is only talking about their average walk. In other words, relative to the orbit itself, not relative to the perspective of the person standing on Earth. That molad could be a little earlier or a little later, as we will learn in the later chapters of these laws. Lefichach, therefore, says the Rambam, asu yom kviya v'yom dechia. The sages enacted that once a year, in the beginning of the year, we'll have one day of establishment and one day of pushing off. To ultimately meet up with the true time of alignment, the true time of conjunction. Ketzad, what does it mean, one day, one day? Bashlishi kaivin. If it comes out on Tuesday, we push it off. We make Rosh Chodesh that day. But Revi'i Daichen, Wednesday we push off. B'chamishi Kaivin, B'shishi Daichen. Thursday we make Rosh Hashana, Friday we push it off. B'Shabbos Kaivin, Echad B'Shabbos Daichen. Shabbos we establish. Sunday we push it off. B'Sheni Kaivin, and on Monday we establish Rosh Chodesh again. So you have a pattern of one day, going this way and that way. The Rebbe has a number of letters and talks where he says that the Rambam even here didn't give us the real reason. The real reason is according to Kabbalah. Because if it's all about making one day, so why do you have to start on Tuesday and go to Monday? Maybe start on Sunday and go to Monday. Like, what's the difference? Which day you go? Why is this specific alternate pattern chosen? And the Rebbe explains that according to Kabbalah, Rosh Hashana is called Dina Kashya. The first day of Rosh Hashana is called tough dinim, tough justice. And so we don't want to make it on Sunday or Wednesday, which are days that are associated with Chesed. According to Kabbalah, the 7 days of creation are the 7 Sefirot: Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. And Chesed and Netzach, Sunday and Wednesday Sefirot, are on the right side. So we don't want to make Rosh Hashanah on that day. And Friday is also associated with Yesod, which is called Hamtakat HaGvurot. It sweetens justice. So we don't want to have the day of rough justice be on that day. It's interesting, the first Rosh Hashanah of creation ever was on a Friday. If Friday is not a good day, why was the first Rosh Hashanah on a Friday? So the Rebbe explains in different ways that the justice in the beginning of creation, before Adam sinned, wasn't so rough, so it could be on a Friday, it was fine. The mainstay, the foundation, the real underlying reason for all of the 4 delays mentioned in this chapter is this same principle. That all that we're calculating now is only the average, the mean position of the sun and the moon relative to their own orbits, not the true position. And by adjusting these adjustments, ultimately we're going to end up meeting the true time of alignment, the true time of conjunction. The proof for this is, based on our calculations, we can ascertain the mola to be on Tuesday, Monday night, and it'll be pushed off to Thursday. And if you'll be outside, you won't see the moon, not on Thursday, not on Friday. Which means that that's the night of true conjunction, Thursday. And by adjusting our calendar, pushing it off from Tuesday to Thursday, we have come into alignment with the true conjunction. That's the proof that sometimes we must follow this rule and make Rosh Hashanah later to meet up with the true time of alignment.